Thank you, Dr. Scherz. Jim Martin, 60 plus.
Thank you very much, and thanks for being here. By the way, the ACU, this is the 37th annual CPAC. Someone was quoted yesterday. It was their first CPAC. They called it the biggest and baddest gathering of political conservatives in the country. I concur with that, and somebody said, well, you've been to more than one, Jim. Yeah, I've been to all 37 of them, and God willing, I'll be here again next year. I got to tell you something before I mention. Everybody knows about the health care issue and what needs to be done, and everybody's doing a good job at it. But I got to tell you one thing. I want to mention the AARP. People talk about that. I was out in Little Rock, thank you. I was in Little Rock, Arkansas recently doing a tour, and somebody took me into a crowd of a bunch of seniors and said, Jim's head of a senior citizens group, and I thought I was going to be attacked. They said, the AARP? I said, no. So I had to come up with a counter to that. The AARP the Association Against Retired Persons. And I'll tell you, they have a scam on seniors. They're a Fortune 500 insurance conglomerate. That's fine with me if they do it on their own nickel. But I got to tell you something, Doctor. While $75 million goes to the AMA from taxpayers, I can top you. The ARP received $89.5 million one year. In their highlight year, they've received over $1 billion worth of our tax dollars. We don't, at 60 plus, we're selling a philosophy. It's called conservatism. Limited government, less government. And the AARP, quite frankly, has been out there for 40-some years, and I started the 60 plus 17 years ago to counter it. And there's so many differences between us. Let me mention health care just real quickly. First, do no harm to a system that's worked so well for so many for so long. Clearly, it needs reform. But let me tell you, though, going back to my favorite topic right now, the AARP, they make millions, and that's fine. They promote liberalism, big government. Their spokesman, the guy they tout, is Harry Belafonte. He's a great entertainer, don't get me wrong, but he comes from a hard left position. And a lot of the ARP members, when they find that out, they've been buying products that they didn't realize. Some of the conservatives, they're upset about it. Our spokesman at the 60 Plus Association, you may have heard of him, legendary entertainer Pat Boone. And I got to tell you, so let me give it a little commercial here on Pat Boone for a second. This rascal, this son of a gun is 75, going on 76. He's still out there. He was just in Israel recently with Governor Huckabee. You may have seen him on the Huckabee show recently. But Pat Boone is the original American Idol. He won the Arthur Godfrey show, talent show. Some of you seniors will remember that. The Ted Mack Amateur Hour, 2 weeks apart. He was 20 years old, didn't have a nickel to his name. Let me tell you what a great American this guy is, who stood by his principles for over 50 years, 55 now, in show business. They came to him, they want to start a Pat Boone show. They said, Pat, we've got a sponsor for you, Liggett and Myers. And Pat says, what's that? Well, that's cigarettes. And Pat says, no, I don't smoke. And, well, Ronald Reagan does. Ronald Reagan hawked Chesterfields back in those days. God bless him. Anyhow, Pat Boone said, no, I don't want to do that. I've got too many young people looking up to me. I don't smoke. No, I don't want to do it. They came back to him, and they said, Pat, how about Anheuser-Busch? What's that? Well, that's beer, and so everybody's doing it, Pat. It's all over, even hard liquor, etc. Pat said, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to do that either. I don't believe in it. Pat, you don't have a dime to your name. Everybody does it. Sorry, I'm Pat Boone. I'm not going to do it. They came back a few minutes later, and they said, Pat, do you have anything against Chevrolet automobiles? Became the Pat Boone Chevy Show, a great success back in those days. Pat has been our spokesman now about 10 years. Let me tell you, too, a lot of people think entertainers, because they want donations or they want you to donate to their cause. Pat Boone does this. He's a believer. I used to read on my printouts, Pat Boone, there's a donation here. We get voluntary donations. We do not get tax dollars from the government. From the taxpayers, you. But I'll say something. Pat has been donating to us for years. So I called him a few years ago. I'd met him a few times, and I said, Pat, we'd be honored at the 60 Plus Association if you'd be our spokesman. And Pat said, Jim, now that I admit that I am 60 plus, I'd be honored. So he's been there with us the whole time. Let me point out one other thing. Heather mentioned all these great ads and the radio spots. We've been doing a lot of television ads, television commercials around the country, talking about seniors being betrayed by these massive cuts to Medicare. And don't get me wrong. Whether you're for Medicare or against Medicare, it's been the law of the land for 45 years, and seniors have paid their dues into that system. And they don't need to be shortchanged now. I worked on Capitol Hill when it passed 45 years ago, and so it needs reforming and has to be done. But seniors are on the march. They're angry. And let me close on this before I show you this commercial. I've been saying since Nancy Pelosi